Some things in this world carry a value no dollar amount can touch. They're not forged from gold or silver, but from something far rarer: memory, love, and the touch of someone you'll never hold again. For me, that treasure was a sign, a humble piece of cherrywood carved from a single slab, standing proud at the end of my winding dirt driveway. My name's Henry Vaughn, though most folks who know me just call me Hank. Since my Ellen passed, my world has dwindled to the edges of this property in Willow Creek, a small town tucked away in the rolling hills of Oregon. It's a quiet life now, defined by the smell of sawdust in my workshop and the steady march of seasons. I'm a woodworker, retired, but you don't retire from what runs in your veins. My hands, weathered and spotted with age, still know their way around a plane and a lathe. They have to. It's how I keep her near. The sign was Ellen's final gift to me. She wasn't a craftsman like Mesh was a painter, seeing beauty in colors and shapes I could only marvel at. One spring afternoon, she burst into my workshop, her eyes alight with a vision. She'd sketched it on a scrap of paper, flowing script spelling out Vaughn's woodcraft, framed by delicate ivy vines and a single, perfect rosebud. It was her heart poured onto paper. I spent 2 months carving it, every curve and petal a silent conversation with her. When it was finished, we planted it together at the driveway's end. It wasn't just a marker for my little business, it was a monument to us. That was 3 years ago, in the spring of 2022. Now it's just me. Every morning, I'd walk down to grab the mail, my fingers tracing the smooth cherrywood, feeling her presence as if she were standing beside me. That sign was my anchor, my daily hello and goodbye to the love of my life. But peace is a brittle thing. Willow Creek had caught the eye of a man named Victor Langston, our new HOA president. A property developer with a polished grin and eyes that never warmed, he spoke in slick phrases: progress, curb appeal, community standards. He was building a sprawling luxury condo complex next to my land and saw our sleepy town as a canvas for his ambitions. My workshop, my quiet life, was a stain in his perfect picture. I tried to ignore him. Men like Langston blow through, build their shiny towers, and move on. But memory is rooted deeper than their steel and glass. Then came the first violation. One crisp October morning in 2024, I walked down the driveway and froze. A garish streak of neon orange paint slashed across Ellen's sign, defiling the letters and ivy she'd designed. It was like a blade through a family portrait. My chest tightened with a fury I hadn't felt in years. I stood there, scanning the empty street, the silent houses staring back. No witnesses, just a lingering sense of being watched. That day, I locked myself in my workshop, my hands steadying as I sanded away the paint, layer by layer, until the cherrywood gleamed again. I oiled it, polished it, restored it to the day Ellen and I first set it up. The anger cooled into resolve. I thought it was over a cruel, random act. I was wrong. It was just the beginning. 2 weeks later, the illusion of peace shattered. I went to check the mail and stopped cold. The post, a sturdy cedar beam I'd sunk deep into the earth, leaned drunkenly. In the soft dirt beside it were tire tracks deep, wide, aggressive. Not a kid's car, but something heavy, like the kind of SUV Victor Langston drove. My pulse pounded. This wasn't random. It was personal. I spent the weekend resetting the post, pouring concrete, my back aching with every shovel of dirt. It was defiance, plain and simple. Then came the letter, printed on crisp HOA letterhead, signed with Victor's sharp signature. It coldly noted that my sign was in disrepair and demanded immediate action to maintain Willow Creek's aesthetic standards. No mention of vandalism, just a veiled threat of fines. He'd struck my property, then punished me for the damage. A month passed, and I dared to hope my stubbornness had won. Foolish hope. The next blow was surgical. The bottom left corner of the sign, where Ellen's rosebud bloomed, was snapped off a clean, deliberate break. I found the piece in the grass, its jagged edges cutting into my palm. Every love starts small, Ellen had said of that rosebud. Now it was rubble. Another letter arrived, sharper this time, threatening daily fines if the unsightly sign wasn't fixed or removed. Removed. The word was a guillotine. Victor wasn't just harassing, Mayhay was trying to erase Ellen's memory. I couldn't stay silent. I marked my calendar for the next HOA meeting, clutching the broken rosebud in my pocket as I walked into the community center. The room smelled of stale coffee and forced civility. Neighbors I'd known for years nodded at me, some warmly, others with pity. Victor ran the meeting with oily charm, his voice gliding over budgets and landscaping plans. When he opened the floor, I stood, my voice steady. "I'm Henry Vaughn, and I'm here about the targeted vandalism of my property." I laid out the facts: the paint, the toppled post, the broken sign, the HOA's threatening letters. I didn't name Victor. I didn't need to. The room murmured, eyes shifting to him. Victor's response was a masterclass in manipulation. "Henry," he said, his voice thick with false sympathy, "what you've been through is terrible. But to suggest anyone here is involved, that's divisive." He spun a tale of rogue teens from a neighboring town, proposed security cameras, and painted himself as the community's savior. By the time he finished, I wasn't a victim, it was a paranoid old man. Neighbors who'd greeted me warmly now avoided my gaze. Victor had won, not with truth, but with performance. Back in my workshop, the scent of cherrywood grounding me, I stared at Ellen's sketch beside the broken rosebud. The hurt was a dull ache, but a new clarity emerged, a calm, methodical focus. Victor thought my sign was weak, that I was weak. He was about to learn otherwise. This wasn't about repair anymore. It was about design. Then came the storm, a fierce Oregon squall in November 2024. Rain battered my roof, wind screaming like a wounded beast. Ellen used to love storms, saying they matched the wildness of her imagination. That night, it felt like a reckoning. At dawn, I walked the driveway, dread heavy in my chest. The sign was gone, not just toppled, but obliterated. The post was ripped from its concrete base. The cherrywood splintered into fragments ground into the mud. I knelt, picking up a piece of Ellen's V. Rage, cold and pure, flooded me. I don't recall driving to Victor's house, only stopping beside his sleek silver SUV. I held up the splintered wood, my voice raw. "You did this. Last night, in the storm." His sigh was theatrical, his words dripping with condescension. "Henry, it was a storm. Things break." But his eyes betrayed a flicker of smug triumph. "Maybe if it meant so much, you shouldn't have made it so flimsy." Flimsy. The word was a spark in dry grass. My rage didn't fade, it transformed into a crystalline resolve. Victor didn't deal in truth or heart. He dealt in power and leverage. I'd been fighting the wrong way. I turned, walked back to my truck, and drove home. He thought he'd broken me. He'd just given me a blueprint. In my workshop, I pulled out my old drafting tools, the T-square and compass as familiar as old friends. I studied the HOA bylaws, poring over every rule until I found my weapon, the signage regulations. They obsessed over paint colors and setbacks, but said nothing about materials or structural strength. Victor's own rules were his weakness. I designed a new sign, the enduring memory. Its foundation would be a 5-foot-deep concrete pillar, reinforced with a rebar cage fit for a skyscraper. The post? A 6-inch steel rod, half buried, half rising like a silent sentinel. The sign itself would be a cherrywood facade, an exact replica of Ellen's design, bolted to the steel core. It would look delicate, inviting attack, but be unbreakable. And hidden in the carved dove atop the sign, a 4K camera and microphone, wired to a buried battery and Wi-Fi transmitter, would capture everything. Construction was a labor of love and fury. I dug the foundation, poured the concrete, and carved the wood with a reverence that felt like prayer. I consulted a lawyer, who grinned at my plan's precision. I built a website, password protected, ready to stream the truth. The enduring memory went up in December 2024, a perfect lie, beautiful, seemingly fragile, but rooted in bedrock. I waited, watching Victor's SUV slow as he passed, his eyes narrowing. He couldn't resist. On a stormy January night in 2025, as rain lashed Willow Creek, I sat in my workshop, laptop open to the camera feed. Headlights pierced the dark. Victor emerged, hooded and confident, wrapping a tow chain around the sign. He hooked it to his SUV, the engine roaring as he gunned it. The strap went taut. Then came a sound, a deep, bone-rattling thud. The SUV lurched, its tailgate crumpling, glass shattering. The sign didn't budge. Victor stumbled out, cursing, muttering his plans to ruin me, to burn my workshop down. The camera caught it all. I clicked execute. The feed went live on my website, emailed to every neighbor, the town council, and a reporter who'd long suspected Victor's corruption. By morning, his SUV sat wrecked at my driveway's end. The HOA met in chaos. Victor resigned by week's end. The reporter's article exposed his harassment and financial schemes, toppling his empire. I stood before the sign, my hand on the unscarred cherry wood. "We did it, Ellen," I whispered. The silence felt like peace. What would you do if someone tried to erase your most cherished memory? Was Hank's revenge justice or obsession? Should he have fought Victor differently? Or was this the only way to win? Share your thoughts, like, and subscribe for more stories that make you question everything.